Let's talk a little bit about informational text. We have talked about narrative and now we're moving on to informational writing, but as you can see, some of those techniques will also be in here because most writers don't think about, oh, am I writing a narrative? Am I writing informative? Most writers just think about what is my purpose of writing? And so sometimes we're going to glean on argumentative, informational, even narrative, depending on what our goal is as a writer and who our audience is and what our purpose is. So let's talk a little bit about these informational techniques. So one is to organize. So here we have organization. We can do it chronologically by taking something first, second, third. We can do something by cause and effect. We could perhaps have a strong main idea and then 3 points underneath. Or there are also some other ideas, and we're going to talk a bit more about organizing your essay in the best way. You might see we might see another technique like making a comparison between apples and oranges and trying to make your point across. Perhaps raising questions. These can be rhetorical questions. These could also be questions that you answer later on that kind of pushes your paper forward. Perhaps you want to give an example or an anecdote. An anecdote is just a small little story, again, using that narration in there, that shows an example or illustrates a point you're trying to make. I always tell students to use this one very purposefully and very sparingly, but sometimes it's nice to address our reader directly by saying, imagine that you are doing this, or what if this would happen, or as you do this, or as you go down the street. So that's something that can work really well when it's done precisely, but not just used back and forth to confuse the I-you kind of point of view. The next one is to quote an authority using a quotation of an expert. This can be both an expert, someone who has experience with your topic, or it can be an outside expert that has perhaps like a PhD or specializes in your field. Also with that, oftentimes it's nice to have a surprising fact or statistic within there, really supporting your ideas and saying this is why. Of course, choosing words or phrases that lead the reader to choose one way or another. We talk very much about diction and positive connotation and negative connotation. So thinking about which words really support your way of thinking and your point that you're getting across. Also, we'll talk more about this, but using that parallel structure in the repetition of your sentence structure in order to make meaning, especially in your conclusions, which often works very well. Using text features and are providing visuals. A lot of mentor text and a lot of informational text and a lot of the text we read now all have kind of information in them. And so using these graphs or other things like that are really helpful. Defining key terms and technical vocabulary, absolutely, perhaps by using a hyperlink as we've seen before, or by using perhaps a footnote in your writing. And of course, one of the techniques that I love is incorporating humor and really connecting with your audience, and that is a great way to use informative text. So we do all of this for informative text, not just because we need to do them, but because we have goals as writers. Some of our goals, of course, are to hook the reader. Perhaps we need to introduce a new topic or subtopic. We want to give background information. We want to teach technical vocabulary. We want to show relationships between people, support or illustrate ideas or claims, maybe help readers get an abstract idea, or maybe describe or support something. Maybe we need to suggest significance of a problem, lead the reader to new thinking, channel the reader towards action, which seems very, again, argumentative, persuasive, but also happens in informative texts, right? They don't stand alone. Maybe we need to build a mood and create kind of some pathos in it and acknowledge the different perspectives. So all of these ideas are important because we want to make a point with our writing. Writing is just not something, hopefully, that we're doing for a class, but really to make our voice heard, to communicate with others. And these techniques and goals for informative writing will help us do so.